And
so everyone
we
can
are
see
live.
us now?
Yes. It says it. Did you see that? It said we are live.
No,
Or
I
you are
didn't
live.
see. I wasn't paying attention.
Oh, it did.
Oh, live.
Yeah.
For 7 seconds. Sorry.
We know that. All right. We got one person here. That's great. I'll get to comments in a second here, but let's see. What was I going to say? All right. So this is a discussion live stream for Dawn of Wonder by Jonathan Renshaw. It'll probably be just us two talking about it, it looks like. Or us three, I guess, talking about it, it looks like.
Who were you excluding?
Well, 1, 2.
Oh,
only 2.
okay.
But, Bren, if you want to introduce yourself and plug whatever you want to plug.
Oh, yeah. So I think I was the first person to introduce T to Dawn of Wonder, but I'm Bryn, and I have a Instagram channel called Bryn the Bookman. If you want to follow me there, it should be in the description, I think. But we're going to be talking about, we're going to be talking about Dawn of Wonder, and we did a read along with it for this book in the month of June, and had a bunch of people join in, and now we're just going to kind of end it off with talking about it and getting more people to want to read it, and then we're also going to do a giveaway of 2 copies of the book. Yeah.
So since you mentioned the giveaway, I will say that you do still have a chance to enter the giveaway until I think we said about 7:45 we'll do the giveaway.
So that's about 45 minutes.
About 45 minutes from now. Anybody who wants to enter the giveaway, just comment and say we want to enter the giveaway or something like that. Anybody who commented, anybody who told Bryn on our Instagram that they wanted to joined, and then anybody who commented on our announcement video for this read along is also entered to win. So yeah, that's about it. I will have your stuff linked in the description once the stream ends and I have time to get it figured out. So let's see. Get the comments real quick here. Andrew says, "Hey."
Sorry, I was
that's all right.
Done. Hello.
He also says, "I'm here at least." I'm still like.
He joined early.
He joined early. What else? I did not realize how massive this book is. Long.
Yeah, it's a pretty big one.
I like it.
It's a very big book. I think in comparison, it looks bigger than Dune, which I have like the mass market paperback for Dune, but this looks bigger than.
I believe it's 708 pages without the author's note, so it's fairly chunky. But yeah, big books are the best. There, he fixed his comment on that one. Okay. Go live. We are live now. If you missed it, Caleb, hello, welcome. Let's see that there's 4 people watching. I'll mention once again right before we get in here. Now that there's 4 people, we are still doing a giveaway for this book. If you want to enter to win the book, enter the giveaway. Comment in the live chat and say I want to enter to win this book, and we will make sure you enter. That giveaway will conclude at 8 or 7:45 Alaska time, and then we will. You don't have to be here to win, but comment or we'll message the commenter. Make sure that whoever commented knows that they won. Okay. Just 2 people here now.
We lost.
It's all right. It's because people were not doing anything interesting yet. That's all right. We should just I guess I'll talk about how all right. Andrew wants to be entered to the giveaway. Perfect. How I got into this book was Bryn basically forced me to read it. Not really. I wanted to read it. Andrew's still here. That's good. The comment, it's slightly delayed between what people are seeing and what we're saying. So yeah, that's how it normally works anyways.
How you got into the book?
Bryn basically forced me to read it. She told me that I was in a book club that she was doing, and she was like, okay, this is the book we're reading. So I read it and really, really enjoyed it. Yeah, I know. Just have to deal with it. Or sit on the pillow or something. Yeah, that first time I read it, I spent way too many nights just staying up too late reading it because I was enjoying it so much. How did you find out about it?
My
Caleb,
mom.
all right.
read it on Kindle Unlimited, and then she was like, "Oh, I think this would be a good one that the kids might like." So, I think she bought a copy of it for us, and my brother got a hold of it first and read it, and he was like, "Oh my goodness, you have to read this! Like, it's so good." He read it in like 2 days or something.
I can't read that fast.
Then he gave it off to me, and I read it in like 2 or 3 days, and I loved it as much or more than he did. So it's a good one.
And then Kate, how did you come to have to read it?
I came to have to read it. Bryn and T had been talking about it for a long time. Bryn's been trying to get me to read it, so has T, because they both thought that I would like it, saying that it was different from so many other high fantasies. And then T picked all of the books that I read for the month of June, so this last month, and he added Dawn of Wonder to that. So
because you said four's not enough. I need another one.
It wasn't enough. I needed another book. So I listened to it on audio. I had the ebook, I had the hard copy, and the audiobook. And I kind of switched back and forth between them, but I mostly did the audiobook. I just looked at the hard copy for the pictures because there's illustrations. And then I did I did read some of the ebook a little bit.
I will say the last illustration in the book is kind of disappointing in some ways.
Oh, were you hoping it was spoilers?
What is it? Can I show it? Am I allowed to show it?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's not like there's any spoilers in it, so
no. But that's it.
Like it's cool, and what it signifies and what the part of the story that it's telling is interesting, but it's also kind of boring compared to some of the other illustrations that are in here.
I really like the very first illustration.
I don't remember what the very first one is, but
the cover
like
illustration or the
no
that one too.
No, the first one in the book. It's like
the mask.
No.
Let's see. 685. Yeah, that's kind of a.
It's
I mean, like that's the. This is not. What's that called in storytelling? No, this the thing that sends them off onto their journey.
We're trying to do no spoilers, so.
Yeah.
Okay. This isn't. Is this spoiler? I mean,
not really. It's kind of what starts the entire story going, but so you can't really tell a whole lot what it is, but then once you see it, it's cool.
In the context of the story, I really like it. Even though I'm not gonna go. I'm not gonna go on to art styles.
I like the map as well. It's got a cool map.
It's really good.
Lots of good world building just done in the map and size and scale and everything. And then of course the cover, which can't really. No. But it's a cool cover, artwork. And it's I'm excited for whatever comes.
Sorry.
What?
I have some people who are saying they don't have YouTube, so they can't comment, but they want to enter.
Okay, well, that's
they don't
fine.
have a YouTube account. Okay.
Yeah, text them.
Okay.
Or not. Yes, message them to me somehow. Bryn, what is your Bookstagram handle?
At Bryn Booknet.
All right, let's see.
Put that in the chat for him, or where?
Well,
what magic are you going to do now? Technology. Magic.
Come on, fix it, please. Thank you.
You could also. Well, is Bryn putting up the wheel, or are you?
I will.
You could DM any of us.
I believe that's what it is. All right. We will make sure to add those names in.
Yes.
Well, you're the
wizard.
You're
a wizard.
I guess I should show that there. What
Hi, Jeremy.
T is a tech wizard. Not really. Thank you. Who's Jeremy? Hello, Jeremy. Says hi there.
Hello.
Hello.
All right. So let's, I guess, what are your general thoughts, non-spoiler thoughts about this book, giving a little bit of detail of why you like it, things like that, without no spoilers as much as possible.
I guess overall, I'm really drawn to the character development in the story. So there's a lot of books that I read that I feel like are too fast, and I don't get a lot of character development. It's like things just happen to them. And with this one, it was amazing how I could be really invested in the story and interested on one character, because it only stays on, it's following one character the whole time. And even though this character was in one place for so long, you still felt engaged with them and their whole story. And I really appreciate that, because most books have characters moving everywhere, all over the place, or at least the ones I read. And while this character does go on a journey, they are in one place in the book for a long time, and you really get to watch them grow, and that is what I kind of connected with them through that. So that's why I really like it. And then I guess if we're talking favorite scenes, maybe we should save that for spoilers.
Yeah. What are your general thoughts about this book? Same basic question that I asked Bryn.
One thing I really liked about it is kind of what you said along the lines of it's not a really, really fast-paced book. I like stories where you follow the character for such a long time. Zorro by Isabel Allende is one of my favorites for that reason, as it follows them from like childhood up to adulthood, and I think this is similar from childhood to manhood, I guess you could say. I do like that aspect of it.
Yep.
I think that's my response there. Sorry, I'm not trying to...
That's all right. Well, thank you for coming, Andrew. We appreciate your commenting and your support. All right. I guess I should say, when I first read this book, I read it physically, and it's been almost 2 years, something like that, since we first read it, or since I first read it. And over that time, I just so vividly remembered the setting, the way that the world looks, the way it's described. It's not overly descriptive language that he's using, but you can visualize it so well, and that stuck with me. And then I loved the story that I was reading. I loved the twists on certain things that they were doing. It just the way the whole story fit together and set up for book 2 was very interesting. Aiden, the main character, goes through a great character arc and character journey, like Kate and Bryn already said. And then just really all the characters, the friend group, the found family, is pretty much every trope that I love. Dangerous magical forests, castle, like everything about it is just trope after trope that I enjoy. There's only one trope that I don't love, and we'll get to that in the spoiler section. But everything about the story worked so well for me.
I'm looking for a name.
Okay, it might be at the front because there's a list of names, pronunciation guide. Do you have a question for us, Bryn? Or do we have any other non-spoiler thoughts before we get into?
I wrote some down. I think they shouldn't be spoiler ones.
Okay.
Let's see. Well, I guess none of them are really.
Right,
if you answer
I'll
that,
do one. I've got one question. Do you have a question that you could do for non-spoilers?
Let me check my questions.
Well, my question would be, do you have or who's your favorite character, rather? And we'll get to why later. Probably I'll come back around to this question and we'll get to why. But I think my favorite character is probably Calorie. Just her importance in the story, in the way that it causes the story to happen, is so cool. But she's also just a really fun character and a very believable character. And I don't know, I just really like Calorie.
Okay. I really like P-Shot. I thought he was a lot of fun, and I liked that he wasn't the type of character who only has one trait. He was so full of life, and I don't like that phrase that I used, but I don't know. He just made a lot of sense, and I liked how influential he was to Aiden and to their friend group, and yet how he was also influenced by Aiden and everyone else.
He was
Bryn?
like mischievous, but also willing to fight for you, and yeah, he was like a really good. You felt like he was a good friend by the end of the book.
Yeah. Once you become his friend, once you have him on your side, you're set.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite character?
Yes, I think there's so many good ones, but I think I really like Fergal.
Mm-hmm.
I think Fergal is one of my favorite characters.
Yeah. Fergal and Nolte both. I really like both of them.
Yeah.
He's the assistant.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. And then Nolte, you probably remember Nolte. Nolte's right from the beginning of the book.
He's the oldest shopkeeper.
Still plays a role, but he's he's just one of those characters that you're like, this guy's a bumbling idiot, but he's the best bumbling idiot out there. And
yes.
I also really like Osric. Osric plays a very important role in this story, even if he's not a massive major player. I mean, massive, yeah, but not a very important major player through the amount of page time he gets, I guess. Well,
one thing to add on to what you said about Osric, I just remembered something. When Aiden meets him, I'll say that, hopefully that's not a spoiler. When Aiden meets him for the first time, his reaction reminds me of, if you've ever seen the Guardians of Gahul movie. I really like that one when I forgot what the main character what his name
Soren.
is now. Soren, when he meets the Lies of Keel, his reaction reminded me so much of Aiden when he met Osric, and I was like, this is so great.
Have you read those books?
I believe I read the first one, but I haven't read the rest of them, so.
You need to read the rest of them. I don't know, maybe you don't. I think they're really good. The movie's not as good as the books, but the movie's pretty good.
Yeah.
Do you have a non-spoiler question that you came up with or not?
I mean, they could go either way.
Okay.
I feel like we can expound more once we're into spoilers.
Yeah.
So
we'll switch to spoilers now. Thank you guys. Anybody who has watched this far and won't be watching further until you read the book, or if you do want to watch, thanks for staying with us or whatever. But yeah, we will. What time is it? 7:19. So we've got about 25 minutes left.
I have an unrelated question.
Go ahead.
I'm curious if any of the viewers are Oyeners.
Good
or Oyeners. What's the other pronunciation?
Oyen.
No, I don't know. There's some pronunciation.
Anyways, we're down to spoilers now.
Cool.
So, all right. Spoiler thoughts. What's just your basic overall impression? Spoilery.
What do you think is undercasted, causing and stirring up mystery?
Thanks, Caleb. Yeah, if you this sounds at all interesting, I definitely recommend it. It's a bit longer, but it's a great read. That's a very good question, and it kind of reminds me, because I read Dawn of Wonder before I read what's it called? Wingfeather Saga, but it kind of reminds me of the end of Wingfeather Saga in some ways. After rereading it and
the end of the saga, or not just the first book?
Not just the first
book.
Oh,
okay. So I wouldn't understand.
You wouldn't be there. I think it's the fourth book. It's either the third or fourth book. Might be three, actually.
Read them all, so I cannot relate.
I read the first two.
You haven't read all of them?
No.
See, so Bryn got me to read On the Edge of the Dark Sea of Darkness, and then I read the following three books because I loved the first one. I assumed that she had already read the other ones, but I guess not.
I don't know if I want to continue with this. We digress.
That's all right. It's fine. We're just here to talk and have fun.
Because after I finished the book 2, I didn't know how I felt about that, Northrop Eaton. And I was like, well, I'm not really interested in reading more now, unless I'm like someone asks me or something like that. So I'll never understand your reference unless I finish it.
I just really like, I don't know, book 2, Northrop Eaton was my favorite of the 4. I think it was Northrop Eaton, On the Edge of the Dark Sea of Darkness, whatever the second to last one, or whatever the fourth one was, I can't think of. Warden and the Wolf King, and then Monster in the Hollows, I think. So it goes 2, 1, 4, 3, I think. is my order. But yeah. Anyways, Kate, do you have spoiler-free thoughts?
About Dawn of Wonder or about Wingfeather Saga?
Dawn of Wonder.
Okay. Spoilery thoughts, just generic, or what's the question here?
What are your thoughts regarding the book in a more spoilery way?
In a more spoilery way.
Because you talked about how you like the friend group and you like following Aiden.
I like the friend group, which is something I told you I didn't tell the live stream, but I did really enjoy the friend group. I tend to like that type of thing in a story, seeing how characters interact with the other characters, especially people they're close to, and friend groups just in general. I also really liked, I guess what would be called the mental illness awareness part of this, or difficulties in that sense, how he was dealing with the PTSD from his abusive father. I really liked watching how he grew from that. We see a lot of characters, well, I guess I should say a lot of more and more characters in stories today are being shown with things that they're struggling with, and I like that Aiden is actually growing from that, and how significant it wasn't just, I think a lot of times that's brought up for characters to make their life harder, and that's not how it was for Aiden. It was actually part of the story and how the plot was driven along.
Yeah. I think
JR, thank you for commenting. Yeah, this is a book that Bryn and I both love, and Kate enjoyed certain things about it. We'll put it that way. If you find it at all interesting, please do read it. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Also, in case there's people here that weren't here earlier, we are doing a giveaway for this book. We'll be giving away 2 copies. All you have to do is comment and mention that you want to be entered into the giveaway, and then we'll enter you into the giveaway. You don't have to be here to win or anything. We'll make sure that you are informed that you won.
There was, I was going back to the same topic that I was just talking about. There was one quote from closer to the end of the book that really showed his progression and his growth, and I'd like to read that. I'll pull it up here. I don't have it marked where in the book it is, but it says, "The fear was there was no denying it, but it no longer crushed him. Though that treacherous section of his bridge was groaning, it was not collapsing as before. It was holding the weight." So that was probably my favorite quote from Dawn of Wonder, just seeing how much he'd grown throughout the story.
I actually think his has a really good
sorry guys.
I actually think this has a really good first opening sequence to the chapter, but the first line, "Even the wind now held its breath," and then it goes into, "A hush of anticipation swept through the trees, causing forest creatures to hesitate in their scratchings and birds to falter in their songs. The woods grew still as everything was pressed under a deep, vast silence," and it goes on from there. But it immediately sets the tone, really, of the entire book, but you don't realize it because there's such a dramatic shift as soon as you get into the story from that moment. But that opening does set the tone for the rest of the book that you see as you get through there. That's his spoilery thoughts for me. Just, I guess I don't really have a ton to expound upon other than that the Calorie character, her role in the story is not one of a ton of page time, but she basically is the one that causes the story to happen, that causes the growth, basically everything revolving Aiden is what's the word I'm looking for? It's push forward, I guess. Not what I'm looking for, but it's push forward is the best I can think of. It pushes his story forward, driving it. That's what the word that I am. It's the driving force behind Aiden and his story and his character and his decisions. And that partly, along with her actual character that we see, is just such a great combination for this story. I've got a question that we'll ask now.
Did you answer this one,
Yeah,
Brent?
Right at the beginning, the non-spoilery overall general, or the spoilery overall general thoughts.
I said, "What do you think is underneath?"
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Oh,
I remember
I
that.
didn't give my opinion, but yeah.
Where's my questions? I have to find them. There it is. Okay. So did the Christian themes add or detract from the story being told? I know a lot of times Christian authors write stories that are very heavily almost preaching to you, and that can turn off a lot of readers. Does this book feel like it suffers from that in any way, or is it enhanced by the Christian themes that are included?
I would say it is definitely enhanced because I really didn't know. Like when I was handed the book, I didn't know if the author was a Christian or not. And so after reading through it, I had no idea until like, the themes kind of came up.
That scene, yeah.
Yeah, and it was like, oh, like that's how I think it should be, because by that you're invested in the story, and by him adding those elements in, it's like you feel like you're a part of the story more, and you're like, there is hope, there's something more than just this life kind of thing, just more than what Aiden is going through. Like there's something more mysterious, something beyond, and it was just like you wanted to keep reading it, on to the second and third book to find out what happens. And I don't think it detracts at all because it's not. It's a part of the story. It's not like, oh, here's a story and here's something else thrown on top of it. It's like it's one with the story.
It's a part of the world building. It's a part of the setting, and it's a part of his story from the very beginning. You're leading to that point, and so when it happens, you understand. Oh, this is obviously where it's been going from the whole story, and his struggle with that. And I really like the description of basically the cauldron peeling away, rather, because a lot of times you hear phrases like rolled away or lifted off, but I like the peeling away as the descriptor in that sense, because I feel like it in many ways fit both Aiden, but it also in some ways is a better picture in my opinion. So I think it added. I definitely agree that it added to it. And it's also done in ways so that it's not like blatantly in your face. Oh, this is Christian. It is very much so, but it's also like, no, this is it's a fantasy world. This is the fantasy God being that is in this world, and or that is for this universe, whatever it is, and it works in that way too. Because I mean, it's no different than Brandon Sanderson creating Adonalsium, and then, or however that works, and then destroying Adonalsium. I think Adonalsium was the god that he then killed and made a bunch of little gods type thing. And it's not really any different than that, other than the way that it's executed in the story that's being told.
I think it's bringing up my thoughts. I agree with, I think, everything you guys have said so far. It's bringing up just a lot of thoughts about themes in general, and right and wrong is not really subjective in most senses. And so if you're bringing up a right or what's good, a theme in a story, it doesn't have to necessarily be Christian or religious. If that's what's right, then that's how it's going to come across. And if it's right, then it's, of course, is godly. So I don't know if my thoughts are tying into what you guys were saying. No, I
think it makes sense. Okay. Although we're still being very vague with what we're saying.
Well, I don't know how to word that area better without thinking about it too long.
Yeah. Another question. Bryn, do you have a question for us? Spoiler question.
Yes. Does the lesson that Aiden learned, or I guess he did learn a lesson, but there's still a lot more to be. He still has a lot more to learn. Did the lesson that Aiden learned by the end of the story play out like you thought it would, or were you expecting something different? Were you expecting it to turn out in a different way?
Yeah.
I don't think I had any expectations around the end. That's just partly due to the way that I read stories. I don't think about a story as I'm reading it and wonder what's going to happen next. A lot of times I just read it. I just let the information get put in my head. So I don't think I was expecting anything, but I do think that's due just to the way I read stories.
I think there's a little bit that of both it did play out like I expected it to, and it didn't play out like I expected it to. I think in some ways you want Aiden to strike back. You want him to to take revenge, I guess, on his father. But then when he doesn't, in the way that plays out, in going back to that one scene that we're talking about earlier.
One scene. Just say it. Say the scene.
What's the scene?
Okay.
The lightning bolt scene. How that scene affects Aiden's mindset, and how you still have 200 pages left, something like that, before the end of the story from that scene, and how he continues to grow and develop until that final confrontation. It works really well, I think. So both you want him to, and so when it doesn't, it's kind of, I didn't get what I wanted, but at the same time, not getting what you wanted or what you thought you wanted was really the right thing to get, which is kind of how stories are supposed to be told anyways.
Yeah, you're supposed to want what the character wants, and then when they learn the lesson, you're supposed to learn the lessons, and they're like, oh, I guess the choice they made is the one I would have made, or, because you went through the story with them.
For me, I'm just like that passive reader who doesn't, I don't know.
What are your thoughts on that question?
I like to, guess what's going to happen, to see if I'm right. I kind of use that as, I guess to judge how a writer writes is to, can I predict the story's ending from the beginning or the middle? And, if I'm right, well, I like to be surprised, I like the stories to take twists and turns and take me in places that I wouldn't have thought of. So I guess following what T said that when you're reading Dawn of Wonder and you're following Aiden on his journey and you want to take revenge, you want to strike back with him because that's what he wants to do. I really didn't know how this was going to play out because I didn't know who the author was. I didn't know what kind of path that they were going to take. So I had no idea or any expectations, I guess. I thought maybe that this was going to be a story, the theme revenge, when it came up, I thought, oh, maybe he is going to go take revenge. He's actually going to, go to Lickville. He's actually going to, take revenge on his father. And then when it played out in the way it did, I was like, well, this is so much better than what I had thought was going to happen. And I'm really glad that it ended in the way that it did. So that's probably another reason why I really like this one, is because I didn't predict the ending. So...
I do like that he didn't go after the revenge. It's not a storyline I enjoy seeing from the main character's perspective.
Do you have a question?
Oh. Let me see.
Spoiler.
A spoilery question. I had it pulled up a second ago.
And then I swiped it away.
Well, if you don't have one, I have another one. What is your favorite overall scene in the whole book? I know which one T is gonna say. I'm pretty sure.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know which one I'm gonna say yet.
Well, you've said it before.
Have I?
So.
Which one did I say?
You said
bridge scene.
At the beginning, when you first meet Aiden.
Oh yeah, that is a good one. I do like that scene. Yeah, that one. There's probably one in Kultum that I really like as well. That's probably could be in contest for my favorite. But one of those two, I'd have to think about it. I really like the glowing stones in Kultum and how that all played out, and that dragon stuff. That stuff was cool too. But so it's between one of the Kultum scenes and then and that bridge scene.
There's the scene where he's reading Calories' journal near the end of the story, where the Dawn of Wonder phrase pops up. I really liked that scene, and I was gonna try and pull it up and skim over it, but that kind of came to mind. There's probably more.
It's right.
I was gonna search for it
last night, and I was I just reading the ending just to get another briefing of the ending and how resolution came, and I think you learn so much about Calorie through her journal than you do, from just seeing her in person, which I thought was really cool. Like T said, she didn't get much page time. Well, she got page time in other ways, like actual literal pages in the story. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have it pulled up.
I'll mention then while you're reading through it, if I can remember what I was going to mention. It's a different question, so I can't mention it until we're done with this topic. This question.
Okay. Do you want me to read this section then?
Read whatever you feel like you want to read to get your point
Anything I want to read? Okay.
Yeah, I got Harry Potter.
Okay, great. Just imagining what could happen is already making me full of jumps and squeals. I can't even describe the feeling I have about it. How do you describe something indescribable? I read it somewhere that the best word for things that are bigger than words is wonder. It's now my favorite word, and I need it here, because I think the time we're living in is going to be a dawn of wonder, the beginning of something incredible, a time of mysteries and legends and heroes, just like in the old stories. If that's what's about to happen, then I'm going to be excited and scared, and you're going to have to let me hold your hand. Just please don't spit in it first.
Yeah. I think the use of flashbacks in this book is kind of confusing at times. That's not specifically a flashback, but it calls back to a flashback that happens earlier in the book. And while the flashbacks can be confusing, I think they're really well utilized at the same time.
I thought the flashbacks were really well done. I wasn't confused by them, which is always really significant because their flashbacks are so easy to be confused through.
Yeah.
They just added so much to the story, and they felt natural where they were placed. Smart in my opinion.
Perfect. Right.
You could tell that he went through and was finding all those plot holes and smoothing them out. Like adding at the end, you jump your mind all the way to almost the very beginning of the book, and you remember when that flashback happened. So
tying everything together from the beginning all the way to the end, and then into book 2, and you're just like, I can't. Book 2 could go like 3 different ways, and how they're going to take it, I don't know, but it's going to be really cool. I think I probably know our answer to this one, but who's everybody's least favorite character?
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's.
I don't like it. Right. My initial thought, of course, was. Let me see this. I can't remember names here.
I remember her name too. What's her name?
What's her name?
Harriet.
Harriet. Yeah. My initial thought was that his Clawman or Clawman, his dad. But that's not the case in the beginning of the story. I don't hate him at the beginning of the story. Like he did some really terrible things, but at that point he wasn't a villain. It doesn't seem like yet. He was someone who had issues that
saving his family.
Serious. Yeah, he had some notable things about him that were respectable, even though he had a lot of problems too.
I think Clawman is probably one of the best characters in this book because of the complexity of him. He's not a good guy, but at the same time, when it mattered, he came through in many ways and many times. And so it was, I don't know. I really like Clawman as a character, but as a person, I don't like him at all.
No, he was a very
character.
The other character that I really liked is Liru. From first time I read that, she was probably my favorite character the first time I read it, and then switched to Calorie on the second reread. Liru. Malik is one of those interesting characters that like you're supposed to dislike him, but at the same time you're just like, oh, he's just this cool bully, and so he's not as hateable as someone like Harriet, who is a good guy character, but so frustrating.
Yeah.
Oh, what about the high school boy, Ivor? The one who was giving Aiden flashbacks of his dad because he's big and tall.
Well, him and the guy in Misty Vales.
The Cowrie's dad.
No, the bully in Misty Vales. I can't think of his name.
Yeah.
Starts with. Why can't I think?
The main guy who runs him on the horse, the lieutenant.
No, that's
the boy.
The redhead.
Right there.
Emroy.
That's his name. He's frustrating, but at the same time, not. I don't know. I don't find him as frustrating as some of these other characters. Still,
I kind of hope that we see him again.
I do too.
I kind of hope we do.
Because I feel like Aiden's reaction to him would be contradictory to itself. Like he'd have two different reactions that contradict each other, and he'd have to fight with himself over which one is going to be the right reaction. I mean, he basically already did it with Malik and with the guy in the school, the lawyer bully guy.
What about Prince Bernhard?
I don't mind him. I mean, like he's very clearly like the corrupt politician in some ways, but he works as a character. His happy-go-lucky, bubbly joyfulness with that underlying layer of "I will kill you." That's I like it. I like that.
It was really good. And then his evil sidekick. I forgot what his name was.
Sidekick, yeah. I don't remember. That's all in place.
I think it started with the G, but the one that led the boys down into the dungeon to see Jawler.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's his name was? Well, what's the main guy? The prince's name? Prince. Torval.
Torval. I don't think that was it.
No, Torval's the bowmaker.
Oh, right. So what's your opinion on that whole section where they're learning to make weapons and learning to survive and grow and all that stuff, and how like you can obviously tell he put some research into that whole section there. Do you think that was good or too much?
I honestly liked it. Like, I think listening to it on audio might have been a little confusing, but I also read the book and I could follow along better. But I think that part really added to the fact that it's like Jonathan Renshaw's way of saying, look, I actually researched what I, put into the book. This is like I actually did my research, and you can tell. And he actually went out and did the same thing that Torval did and actually shot the bow, which I think is so cool. Like, there's a video on his website that you can watch him make the bow and then actually use it, which is pretty cool. But I think that added a whole lot to the story, because now you get to see, what Aiden's actually learning, and then he goes and does the same thing, and then later on in the story he actually uses a bow that he makes, and that's just really cool.
But you also know that if it in the future something happens, exactly the type of thing that he's going to be able to do to deal with that, and that's right. And you know why he knows it.
Yes.
Yeah,
I've forgotten the question.
The when he's training to make weapons and hunt and hide and do all those survival skills and everything, was the description too much, or did it add to the story?
I don't think it necessarily detracted from the story. I did listen to it on audiobook, and I don't think it didn't really make anything better. I guess that's not the right phrase to word it. It didn't add to the story for me. It didn't necessarily detract, because it's high fantasy. You honestly kind of expect that type of thing, especially from a book that size. But it didn't add anything that I noticed first read through.
I mean, there was a bet going on, and you really wanted Aiden to win, because Malik was just being terrible to him, and Aiden bet something that he didn't have. And I thought it was kind of funny that, and then we don't see much of Torval after that. Like the ending, the part when I think Pishat leaves him the weapon for him to keep as like a thank you. Like the ending scene, you see Torval like holding it in gratitude, and it was like, I forgot what the quote was, but it was like, that was the best form of gratitude that you could have given him. And he was happy with that. And I really want to see him again, because he was like a very shy, really wonderful craftsman. And I know, I guess I like it. I like all the characters, so I want to see all of them again. But
all right, well, I think it's time to do the giveaway, so I'm going to try and get that to work real quick. Hopefully we won't get too bad streamception. All right, let us know when this wheel pops up.
I see.
For you. All right. I'm going to spin the wheel then, and we'll see who wins this first one. And that is Taha. I don't know how to pronounce the last name or the last word, so we will.
Congratulations.
Yes, and then I'll contact Taha and make sure that he wants a book, and if he doesn't, I'll spin again and give it to a new person. Yeah, so let's spin second time.
Happy Dragon is so close.
Yeah, I know. We'll see who gets it. Coffee Cloud. All right, so I will leave you to contact Coffee Cloud, since I believe that is one for you to deal with. Where's stuff? Okay, got it.
Yay. I'm awesome.
So,
it's awesome that we get to send these out to people.
Just making sure that I don't forget. Okay, you got the person who won.
Yes.
No.
Two, what?
Sorry.
2 winners. One from us and one from Callie. Ready. Okay. Let's do another question. I won't keep us too long because it's nobody else is here, and you and I have talked about this extensively. Let's go with fake out death. Was it good or bad fake out death? I don't like the fake out death trope. So in Coltoon, Murta dies. We think dies, and then later he appears. Is that
he died off screen, man?
He died off screen.
You never know when they die off screen. There's no for sure, and if it's Marvel, even then it's not for sure.
Yeah. But do we think that was a well-earned fake out, or one that we didn't like? Because I mean, I liked the character, but
when did he come back? I don't remember.
He snuck back into camp after like 3 days out on the trail away from Coltoon.
And how
they thought
was he received?
They thought he was a panther, but then he mumbled something, and they really recognized him as Murta. Okay. You clearly don't remember.
I remember. Fine. I just can't bring up any of my thoughts about the subject because
there was so much action going on in that part of the story that it would have been easy to forget him because he wasn't like a huge character. But
I remember his
they
name.
were all, really sad that he was gone. And then when he came back, I was like, oh, he's alive.
Who does die?
I don't know, since we already had the big spoiler, I guess, of the whole book, but I guess everyone was kind of already expecting it, was that Calory's still alive.
Yeah.
So we have that kind of fake death, and then we have Murta's one, and I don't know. I don't really know how I feel about that. I mean, I guess you were kind of glad that he was alive, but yet again, you're like, oh, like, no one really died except for the soldiers, like.
The soldiers, and then the really smart guy that I can't. Culver, that's his name.
Yeah.
Happy Dragon, hand drawn. Yes. Is there any food? Yeah, that's exactly right. That's what he says when he comes back into the.
Right, because he's so hungry.
Yes. He's been like 3 days without food or something like that.
I think I was more frustrated by Calory's non-death because we did expect her to be alive. We were expecting that to be revealed, but at the same time I was hoping like, let's be different. Let's make her actually dead and him actually have to deal with this, because I didn't feel like he ever got over her through this story because the story wasn't over with Calory.
Yeah.
Who's to say though that she won't still die in book 2?
She might, but we still. Here's my prediction.
She doesn't.
If we go into book 2, they're gonna have this big reunion, and then if she dies, then it's just gonna be like, oh yeah, big reunion died, just like every other story with that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So
I think Tyne might die in book 2. The lady.
Oh.
Warrior lady.
Okay. Yeah.
I think she might die in book 2, sacrifice herself in order to
save Calorie. Osric will die shortly after.
Yeah. Osric.
Poor Osric.
Yeah. No, it's going to be I can't wait for it, but it's going to be good. I think that I don't know. It's going to be interesting. However he decides to do it, however he decides to tell this second part of the story.
Which I guess is another question. What do you think is going to happen in book 2 and 3? I guess he cut them into 2 books, so. Do you think it's going to be all on the ship, or?
The way it's set up is that book 2 will be his preparation to go to Le Crow. Maybe he might actually go to Le Crow and spend some time on Le Crow. That whole story arc might even be completed, but that's seems like a whole lot that's going to happen. So we'll see. He also probably may or may not rehash his training, because we spent a good chunk of this first book on his training. So they may just do some description of his training rather than actually him going through it in preparation for book 2. But I think that it'll probably be up to the reunion with Calorie, and then book 3 will be escape from Le Crow, something like that.
Do you think that he might ever do a point of view for Calorie in book 2 or 3, or do you think that would be totally jarring to, after reading the first book, to jump into her head and then be on her side of things while Aiden's at the academy and stuff?
That's a really good... No, I think that he could. I wouldn't be surprised if he did do a book 2 follows Calorie's journey. Yeah. He would very well might. That's...
I mean, I wouldn't mind it. It would be kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's seeing that, because the whole focus of that book in many ways is get over your prejudice against this culture, because there's still things about this culture that you can find that are to appreciate. Even if it does seem blatantly evil and wrong in so many ways, seeing it through the light of these are the Le Crow people. Now you're looking at them from inside of them. How does their culture actually work? I think we could, because it would help us to sympathize with them, or empathize, whatever one it is, with them a little bit better, and then we could, when the eventual battle does come down to it, it'll mean so much more. But there's a couple other ways that this story could go. So there's the Calorie and Le Crow area side of things, but then there's also Kultum. Like, are we just gonna, okay, well, Kultum storyline's done, so we're never going to return to that. So that's another story, another area that they could go into. There's also the Finn raids and the battle with the war with Finns and everything that it could go. So that's 3 ways that book 2 could go. There's also the Thing under the city. That's a 4th storyline. And then the Thing with the storms. What's causing them? Why are the storms a thing? They kind of concluded that in this first book with the trip to Kultum and the return to it. What was that?
The beast in the woods.
Yeah, I don't know.
The lakeside terror.
Yeah, how does that factor into everything? Which we know how it factors in, but how does it affect stories going forward? Or how does there's a lot of it that's going to, a lot of questions that we still have to answer, a lot of story threads that have to be completed, which I think this is supposed to be a 4-book series. It was supposed to be a trilogy, and then split book 2 into 2 books. We'll see if he splits book 3 into, or the old book 3, now book 4 into 2 books as well. But there's a lot of stories still has to cover.
There is. And I think when Kate was reading part of Calorie's journal at the end, I think there's another journal entry that's near the end, and Calorie's talking about how the storms, or how she felt like a tingling in the air, and she mentioned that maybe it's spreading all over the whole world. Like, are these storms happening in the crowd too? Are they going to meet, creatures over there? And that kind of thing. Are they hitting stuff in the ocean? Like, are they hitting, like, sea creatures in the ocean, you know, stuff like that. Like there's so
Well,
much that the storyline.
I mean that jaw cage thing trap on the Crow ship clearly had something to do with something.
Right.
Probably catching some big animals, big sea animals or something. So there's a lot of questions still to be answered, and I'm excited to see how he does it. What you thinking about?
I was trying to find something.
Okay. We'll go for a bit longer, 10-ish minutes, something like that. Let's see.
What didn't you like about Dawn of Wonder? Is there anything?
I'm sure there is. I know I kind of look at it with a little bit of rose-tinted glasses. But yes, I agree. Fantastic creature. Magical creatures, like that's again one of my favorite tropes, quite possibly my favorite trope. So oh yeah, so you asked about things I disliked, and I'm sure there are some. I probably, had you asked me earlier, I probably would have thought of it, but I kind of tend to look at it with a little bit of rose-tinted glasses, where I just see the good and I forget about the bad, which is, I think, what I do with a lot of stories. If I like them, I just think about the things that I really liked about them and not so much about the things that I disliked. I think my biggest issue with the book is the middle third. It slows down a lot. The first third, leave in Misty Vales and then getting to the city, and then the third where with the quest, Kultum quest, and then learning all the rest of everything. Those two sections just flow right along, and they're so fast and they're so fun and interesting. It's that middle section. I like the middle section, and I like the character growth and interactions and building that world and everything. But it is a lot slower, in my opinion. We looked at that one. Okay.
Look at that one.
Yeah. All right.
I definitely think the middle section is the fun and games aspect of the outline. That if you've read the Save the Cat writes a novel, that's a section of outlining that they call it. So you have like your main storyline, and then you have like your kind of your B story that's like just some fun stuff to get to know the characters. So like the scene where they're helping the old man and the older lady build their soup stand, like for the carnival and stuff, or like the little fair. Like that didn't need to be in there, but it was fun because you got to know the characters and stuff.
Tied into really to his main story, to Aiden's main story, because Aiden's story in book 1 is about him dealing with the trauma of his dad, and that ties directly into that.
Yeah.
So I think in that way it still is part of the
parts of plot that brought that.
Yeah.
It didn't tie directly into it. It just was like a pathway to bring this about again, so you could confront that.
Or fail to confront it.
Yeah.
Do you have things that you didn't or dislike about it, or don't love as much about it, I guess, besides Harriet?
Yeah, besides Harriet. I mean, I like big, thick books. So, like, this was a great book to read, but I did want it to be, like, a little bit longer. Like, just a tiny bit more, and I wanted them to spend more time in the Misty Vales. Like, I felt like the Misty Vales was just hardly there at all. And, like, this is Aiden's home, and this is Calories' home, and, like, I wanted to connect with the Misty Vales a little bit longer before, like, all of this happened. So I was kind of sad when they just, had to leave, and we didn't get to see very much of it. And then throughout the book, Aiden's reminiscing about his home and everything. It's like, well, I don't feel like it's completely my home because I wasn't there very long. Not nearly as long as Aiden and Cowrie were. So I think if there was like a little bit longer in the Misty Vales, it would have been just great.
I think that's partly intentional as well, though, because the whole we miss a major portion of time after his jump, and because of that, we're missing a lot of the story of that of his time in Misty Vales and how that affects him. But then I think it comes back when he goes and listens to the music, and he's just sitting there crying because it's his home brought to his new home that he still doesn't consider his home, and I think it helps him come to terms with that, and it also helps us to have a get a better sense of Misty Vales a little bit more and of the North a little bit more. I think I mean, again, I imagine Misty Vales so clearly. The bridge and jumping off the bridge and everything, and just like the whole setting, I can visually see it in my mind. If it ever gets adapted, it's not going to look like what's in my mind, I guarantee it, but I can visually see it still. And so I think I feel a little bit more at home in Misty Vales than maybe you do. But what something that you didn't care for about the book?
I think a lot of it came down to just the type of story that it is. I have kind of weird tastes, and I rarely come out of liking a big book or a big tome and loving it. So I think it's mostly just due to, what my preference is. I don't like to nitpick the story just because it's not usually, I don't care. The author can do whatever he wants. So just the type of story, it wasn't one that I loved. It felt long, which it was. And like you've talked about just now, even the reasons for why it was so long or how the middle third was slow, but at the same time, would you guys want any of that removed? No. So it's kind of that same thing. Like, it all works with the story, just like personal preference. I would prefer to read a book that works without it.
Yeah. No, I can see that. Well, let's do some closing thoughts, I guess, a little bit. Are you excited for book 2? Are you excited for potential adaptation that may never come? Like, what's your thoughts just in general closing? I guess we can swap to non-spoilers a little bit now, unless you don't think we should.
I don't really have any spoilers, I don't think.
If anybody in the comments is still watching, what is your thoughts on any of these things that we've talked about already? What is your thoughts for the future?
I don't know if I have any specific thoughts for the future.
I'm excited for the books to come. I've been waiting for it for 6 years. So
yeah. When was book 1 published? Is it 2015?
2015, I think.
15, yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
This is the 4th edition of the book that I own. It's interesting.
It was self-published.
By Animate. I want to see
he doesn't
Animate
have
do some
deadlines. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is self-published, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, I missed that. It's self-published. He doesn't have deadlines. I would be surprised if somebody didn't want to pick it up eventually, and I think maybe they just saw, he's not making great progress on the second book, or he was, and then he had to split and rework things and all this stuff that's going on with him. I think maybe
reworking comes at all stages of writing.
Yeah. So I think maybe with a little bit. I mean, because this book won all sorts of awards when it first came out, and I think that publishers will see that and be like, you know what, this is clearly a loved book. Maybe we should pick it up. And
maybe he doesn't want them to.
It's possible that he may not want them to.
Maybe he just wants to be an indie.
Yep, and that's fine.
I'm impressed. Remember him doing a blog post on that. If you read any of his blog posts, like I remember him saying something. For writing the second and third books, I know he was having a problem getting them published because they were so long, and no one could publish them because they were so big. So he had to split the first one into 2, and even then, I think, right now he said they were written, from what I heard, but they were going through editing it, and they're just beast books. Yeah. So it's just taking forever. And he also got injured, I believe, so his work was put off for quite a while, and as the author, you're the one who's editing it. You're going through and fixing everything that your editors give you. So
I know some people want to be independently published.
Well,
outside
there's
of authors,
benefits to it.
Yeah.
Things like you get all the revenue, or a greater percentage of the revenue by far than doing through a publishing
also
house.
a publishing house is going to have some say on what you include in your story, and if there's anything that he doesn't want to take out, or if he just doesn't even want their opinion on that, then he may just choose to do it himself.
No, there's definitely reasons to do it both ways, and whatever the case, I just want to read this next book. I understand. Don't force authors to do anything. They don't owe us anything.
Listen.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
We want all the books.
Yes, I do like the big books part of them. I think they're. I love big fantasy tomes. I think this one works really well. Like I said, I do think that middle section slows down a little bit, but I don't know that it needs erasing or trimming or anything like that. I feel like it tells the story that needs to be told still.
I am going to have to go. I'm sorry.
Well,
so.
Yeah, it's a good place to end it. Thank you all for joining us, and thank you, Bryn, for coming on and talking with us. It would have been fun to have some other people on here, but that's all right. Maybe if other people want to talk about this in the future.
Put this up here.
I can't wait for the sequels. Yes. Again, if other people want to talk about this again, we can do another live stream in the future or something like that, and hopefully have some other people on that want to be here. It was a hard one to schedule. I'm running out of time this month. Basically, I have no time left for the rest of the month.
Summer.
Right? So. Anyways, thank you guys for watching an Night Adventure. We will.
Bryn, have any closing thoughts?
Oh yeah, Bryn, closing thoughts, and plug your channel one more time, or your account one more time.
My Instagram is @BrynTheBookNymph. Closing thoughts: if you haven't read the book, please go read it so that you can join us in the future for future live streams. And we should all start a petition to ask when the second and third books are coming out.
Yeah. Give us a date, please.
All right, so there's Bryn's Instagram. Yeah, go follow her. She does lots of stuff. She's basically the Dawn of Wonder champion on Instagram. Talks about it about once a week. So, of course, we're in an erudite adventure. I can't talk. It's getting late. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys again soon. Stay warm.
Bye, everyone.